This is Puck Year, New Zealand's hockey podcast with hosts Logan Swinkles and Joe Durie, bringing you the best stories and interviews from Down Under.
Hey everybody, I found him. I found Joe. He wasn't around last week. If you haven't listened to it, don't sleep on our podcast with Jake Ratcliffe. But it's definitely, I miss doing just physical podcasts with you, buddy.
I know, the stupid Tasman Sea that we have between us. That sounds like a line from an emo song.
The ocean between us, yeah.
Yeah. It's a bit of a shitter, but we'll work it out some way. We'll be back together in the same room, even if I have to be like a hologram maybe in your Sydney apartment.
Yeah, we should definitely work that out somehow. But it was a good chat. Jake Ratcliffe is a guy who's doing a lot of amazing things for a young Kiwi kid playing hockey. So yeah, like I said, don't sleep on that episode. But this week, I had the chance to catch up with Kahu Joyce, another Kiwi. He's been playing for the Ice Blacks, but most recently, I and the Botany Swarm, of course. But most recently, he's been overseas in Melbourne, playing first with the Melbourne Mustangs and now this year with the Melbourne Ice. So I caught up with him while he was in Sydney. Good little chat. The Ice actually took really good care of us, man. They set up like this fancy boardroom just for myself and Kahu to do the interview.
Is he still running a fantastic, sexy mustache?
He's still got the mustache, but he is also rocking an incredible hockey face. He was in a fight recently where he I don't think the game was live streamed, but the photos would suggest that basically it was a one-punch knockout, and Kahu was not the victor on that day. Took on a very big import, but it was not because of that he was sort of rocking the bruises and the epic hockey face and stitches and whatnot. He got checked from behind in the previous week, so he was kind of been recovering from that. So he's definitely been in the wars a little bit, old Kahu, but great to catch up with him. But before we get into that, quite a lot of happenings in the NHL. You must have. I mean, I know you're not running on a lot of sleep at the moment with the Cricket World Cup, but you throw in free agent frenzy, and you must be having a ball.
I'm about to die, I think. Especially that it would be great if New Zealand were winning games, but you sit through all through the night to watch these games and they get their asses kicked. It's a real you invest so much time into these games when you've still got a life to live in normal time.
Yeah,
and then for them to lose, it's just a total humiliator. But hey, they're in the semis, so that's all you need to do. You just got to get into as Brian Burke once said, you just got to get into the playoffs, and then anything can happen.
It's like the sport equivalent of C's get degrees.
Yep, exactly. I mean, they could from here basically only beat like Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, the West Indies, and then lose to all the good teams, but then win 2 games in the semi and the final and win the World Cup. It's pretty stupid, but we'll have a parade for it, of course.
Oh, hell yeah, we will. New Zealand, we love a winner. Obviously, speaking of winners, there's a lot of chaos happening in Toronto at the moment. Everyone is tracking the movements of Kawhi Leonard. Maybe by the time this podcast comes out, maybe he would have signed. Who knows? CP24 are actually live streaming a helicopter that's been following the movements of Kawhi from the airport and then jumping into a car. It was almost like the OJ Simpson kind of thing. That's how.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the guy is, he's an introvert. So you wonder how he deals with all that kind of attention.
Do you think that could almost backfire? Like he might just be going,
they're just too much.
Fuck these Canadians are crazy. I'm gonna go to the Clippers.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. In LA, you'd just be another star. You wouldn't be the star, But at the same time, if you're a big time NBA player, you're one of the best in the league. if not the best. You must be loving the fact that a whole country is behind you. Like, that's pretty epic. But back to free agent frenzy, signing season, a lot going on, and the Leafs. I thought it was quite funny because I was watching Sportsnet's YouTube, and Steve Dangle declared them losers of the free agency. Frenzy. I don't know why I'm struggling to say that this morning. It's not like
free agent frenzy. Agent frenzy.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, I'll put that on loop. And he declared them the losers because I guess they really hadn't done all that much.
They've just been getting rid of contracts basically more than anything.
Yeah.
Poor Connor Brown.
I know.
I feel for Connor Brown.
I'm gonna miss that guy. But the fact
he has to go and play in Ottawa. Fuck that.
Yeah. At least you get to be the guy. You were the sweetener of the deal. It's probably like that deal's not happening without Connor Brown. But
he was the equal.
Yeah, the equal, the artificial sweetener. Gross.
Yeah.
Don't use that shit, kids. But
nah.
Yeah.
But Nas, your boy Nas,
I know.
his cat.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about Jazzy. Fuck. Yeah, I'm gonna miss Nazem Kadri. He's been one of my favorites. Yeah, I just thought it was so hilarious that, Dangle had declared Leafs the losers of free agent frenzy, and then probably about an hour later after that video went online, the big trade broke with with the Leafs and the Colorado Avalanche. But stoked to see Tyson Barrie coming back the other way.
Yeah, I think that's a really good trade. Him and Morgs.
Yeah.
As your top pair, that's pretty good.
And I don't know how Dubas is doing it, but he's doing a pretty good job of, I guess, trying to finagle things and make teams do what he wants. The fact that he's dumped another unwanted contract on the Senators, and, now he's sort of shored up a few things, potentially, question marks with the Leafs defense, and of course, a big price to pay losing Nazem Kadri, but it's probably one that had to happen. So I feel like Dubas he's starting to show his true colors. I think he's doing a pretty good job so far.
Now he's just got to get Mitch Marner signed, and everything will be fine.
Yeah, and not that it's
yeah. I mean, we've had one offer sheet, which was a bit of a bullshit offer sheet. It was kind of like, it was like a box tick.
Yeah.
Just like if you were gonna do it, why would you not do it?
Swing for the fences, man.
Yeah, exactly. So it was Mark Bergevin with his massive, sexy, muscly arms, just kind of flexing them a little bit, but not really popping them too much. To like Carolina will sign that, and Aho will stay. So where to next for the Canadians? Will they do another one? I don't know. It's weird. What was the point?
I know.
What was the point of it?
It's funny because you hear all this build up from listening to 31 Thoughts podcast and all the coverage on like TSN and Sportsnet, and they're all talking about how all these offer sheets could be coming in for these really young, talented, restricted free agents, and then that's the only one we get so far. Bit of a letdown, but that's kind of the way of offer sheets. It's just it's there, but it's like, why is it there?
Yeah.
The best part was Carolina Hurricanes, their Twitter poll in reaction to it. Will we sign the offer sheet? Like, will we match it? Yes or we?
Yeah, that was magnifique.
Ah, brilliant trolling.
Is that French? I don't know.
It's French enough, buddy. I'll let you pass on that.
And I guess the other big ones were Bobrovsky going to Florida, and everyone thought that him and Panarin would go together, but Panarin goes to the suddenly not in a rebuild New York Rangers, who are now loading up.
Oh, I think you almost forgot. I am shit scared of the New Jersey Devils.
Oh yeah.
Like, one, you got PK, that's massive. You draft Jack Hughes, and now you also pick up Wayne Simmons.
An angry, pissed off Wayne Simmons.
Yeah, who's got a point to prove after last season. Holy shit. I am shit scared of the Devils, man. They are doing a fantastic job. Ray Shero is, he's the mastermind. If this was NHL 12, he would have 5 Blackberries.
How stupid was that you got phones? Like, what the hell was that? That was obviously just a way to
Product placement?
product integration for BlackBerry. Friend of the show, friend of the podcast, Nathan Walker, St. Louis Blue.
Yes, I saw that. Like, I thought it was awesome how he's still in Australia. He's just loving being back with all the beaches. He's a bit of a surfer, coming from Cronulla. And the fact that, he sort of posts a video from the beach and all it is Gloria. I was just like, yeah, buddy. Like, going from one Stanley Cup champion to another, that's awesome. So I hope he really gets a good shot at the St. Louis Blues. I'm sure another friend of the podcast, Cam Green, who is a diehard Blues fan, is probably very happy about that move.
Absolutely. Worst signing, I reckon. It's got to be Tyler Myers or Matt Duchene. Like, all that money they saved on PK, they just went and gave straight to Matt Duchene.
Yeah.
What's the point? I don't know. And now Matt Duchene and Kyle Turris are on the same team.
Yeah, I think another one probably worth pointing out actually is the Dallas Stars. Picking up your boy Corey Perry. Pretty cheap,
1.5 million. But the other one getting Joe Pavelski as well.
I know, that is huge. The fact that, despite his age, Joe Pavelski, it's just not, to me, he's not really showing any signs of slowing down. He's been very consistent leading the San Jose Sharks over the last few years, being a big part of why they are the team that they were. So I think they'll definitely miss him. But the fact that, the Dallas Stars kind of loading up, okay, you've lost Zuccarello. That's a big miss. But hey, I think you've gained a lot there, and obviously in picking up Andre Sekera as well. You're doing pretty well there, Dallas. So if there are any Stars fans that listen to this podcast, we see you.
Yeah, you think about that power play. You'd have Joe Pavelski in front of the net tipping pucks, Corey Perry being a fucking asshole, Tyler Seguin just one-timing pucks, and then Jamie Benn killing people. And like John Kleinberg on the point, that's pretty terrifying.
Do you load that all up on the first unit, or do you kind of spread it out?
I reckon you just go full load. Have them play for the whole 2 minutes.
Actually, one more that we have to talk about it. Our boy Phil Kessel going to the Coyotes. They've kind of, not really loaded up, but, they've got Phil Kessel and Carl Soderberg, 2 big pickups, and the only kind of name of note that they've lost is Galchenyuk.
Yeah, I always thought he was a good player, but he's never really fulfilled his promise. And now Phil is reunited with Rick Tocchet, his favouriteest coach of all time, and there's a hell of a lot of good golf courses in Arizona, so Phil will probably be very, very happy.
Did you see that photo of Kessel playing poker?
No.
I think Spitting Chicklets posted it. He was playing in like the World Series of Poker.
God, I love him.
Yeah, and he was just in full-on Phil mode, like just the golf shirt, the hat. I was just like, yeah, that dude, man, he's living the life. Like,
how about the blowback that Steve Simmons got on his fucking stupid tweet? Where after that trade he said Phil Kessel's like the house guest that stays and then just never leaves, and then eventually you get rid of him, and everyone just piled on going, yeah, I'll take 2 Stanley Cups with my house guest. That would be quite nice.
Do you think if everyone just ignored Steve Simmons that he would go away?
Hopefully. It's like what is happening to Darren Drigger's Twitter account at the moment, where every tweet that he puts out about Mitch Marner, all the replies are just, thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Paul. Nice work, Paul.
Let's not even jump into the whole Mitch Marner thing, because we'll wait until something of substance actually happens there. But speaking of another Leaf, Austin Matthews named the cover athlete for NHL 20.
Yeah. Does that guarantee that you will now buy the game, the edition?
I know you're going to say it will. I don't know. Like, because I mentioned when we sort of went through like the wish list of what we'd want to see, that I want to see a revamped Be a Pro, and from all accounts, from what I've seen, there's been pretty much zero mention of it. So it kind of seems like, again, if it is going to be in the game, and it probably is, it's just going to be the exact same as last year and the year before that, and
disappointing.
the year before that. I know, but there are a few changes that are kind of interesting that did get my attention. One is obviously bringing in like signature shots of some of the biggest names. Obviously, we've seen like in the trailer, you see PK Subban's like booming slap shot. I think there'll be like OV's one timer from the hash marks. Obviously, Austin Matthews' sick little like drag
toe drag
release.
wrista. Yeah.
So there'll be a couple like that, which will be awesome. So
my signature shot, if I was in the game, would be face plant, slap shot, face plant.
do you? I think you're gonna do that. You need to wear a cage, man.
I know.
You're gonna mush up that not so pretty face of yours even more.
Bust up my ugly face.
But it's cool to see them injecting personality in that way. Like you see it with other sports games, so like NBA 2K, they model the actual like shot releases and stuff of some of the star players, which is pretty cool that we're starting to see that happen in the NHL series.
So they're basically just copying anything that 2K has.
Well, I guess they're kind of the gold standard.
Over time.
Yeah. They're kind of the gold standard of sports games these days, really. The fact that I kind of wish there was another company making NHL games with the license that could kind of, have competition for EA. So it's not just EA doing it. And maybe they might feel the heat a little bit more to sort of do bigger updates than just these kind of little small tweaks they do here and there. Like, I understand, obviously, the development cycle of a sports game is pretty rough, that you only have, a few months each year to actually do this, and you got to pump it out every year. But like, it's just, I mean, we're starting to see some changes. It seems like goalies are getting a bit of an overhaul and sort of upgrading their IQ a little bit, and sort of deflecting shots into the corner if there's someone trying to go for a rebound, and things like that are really cool. But from one thing I've like, GameInformer.com has been like this amazing resource for us over the last while thinking about these NHL video games. One thing that apparently is not being fixed is the puck pickups. That says it all.
Yeah. It's one of the most frustrating parts of the game. It kind of, as real as they're trying to make things, it's like when you're watching a video and the audio's out of sync with the person's voice, person's lips. You can't not notice it.
Yeah.
That's kind of the most annoying thing about that.
It is kind of cool that obviously the NBC license is running out, so they've revamped the broadcasting package to do their own thing. So it's not tied to like one particular entity. So it might be a bit more like, I guess the golden years, like of when we played the NHL games growing up, and they've changed the commentary. Thank God. Yeah. Which is great to hear. So Ray Ferraro is staying on, but he's moving from between the benches to now being the color commentator alongside Vancouver play-by-play guy James Cybulski.
I like James Cybulski. He's very funny. He's a very funny dude.
And the fact that obviously they're both sort of in that BC area means that these guys are actually able to come in fairly regularly. By the sounds of it, they're coming in every week to do records. Whereas before, when you've got Doc and Eddie doing the NBC stuff, your time was, far limited. So hopefully the commentary won't sort of seem so stale so quickly, and hopefully things will look a bit better. You might have, I guess you see in like shooter games, you see like play of the game, that kind of thing. Like maybe we'll see cool sort of revamped highlight packages like that. And apparently there's going to be guest commentators as well. Doesn't really
Soup Dog?
Yeah, that would be amazing. Apparently, according to this, what Game Informer was shown was potentially Don Cherry and Wayne Gretzky. One of those is cool.
Will will they be genuine and have Don Cherry like getting all the names wrong of the people?
they have to. This Swedish, whatever.
Swedish, Finnish, Russian, whatever guy.
Give me a good Canadian kid. And then apparently people like Chance the Rapper and Drake, although nothing is confirmed at this point. So if you had people like that in, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
And then, of course, obviously more of the chow and everything. They're bringing in a few more outdoor rinks. So, just more stuff that we don't really get to appreciate because the online modes kind of suck down here in New Zealand and Australia. They haven't brought in the coach likeness, which is one thing that I'm dying for some reason. I don't know why. I just want to see like Babcock and, Quenneville. And I just want to, they're pretty iconic hockey faces,
Yeah, exactly. But they're saying that they've got a whole bunch of 100 or so different coaches. So
yeah, and you can fire and hire coaches in your BGM mode. So that's pretty cool. They're sort of adding more authenticity. Wow. Yeah.
Authenticity.
Thanks, man. You think I could talk? Yeah. This coffee is not really kicking in. So yeah, there's some changes there that are sort of catching my attention.
So will you buy it?
That's a big question. Will
you put your money where the digital disc is?
Wow, I'm not a sucker like you. I'll still buy physical. Speaking of which, actually, I picked up Super Mario Maker 2 last week, and when I went to EB, I did the old, I traded in a few games. One of them was Mortal Kombat 11, which, it's still a pretty brand new release. I didn't really ever get into it. And the good thing with in Australia, games are actually way cheaper than New Zealand. It's awesome. A game might be $90 in New Zealand, and it's going to be more like 60, 70 here, which is...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's great. Especially with new releases. A lot of times they actually drop the price, I guess, on new releases to try and sort of get more people to buy it, which is, and they only do it for the weekend of, games come out on a Thursday or Friday, and then... they'll have it $10 cheaper just for that weekend. And so
they're making all their money in microtransactions anyway now. So
well,
you got to have people buy the game to get the microtransactions off them. So
there is that. But yeah, I got $20 alone just on the Mortal Kombat, which is awesome. But no, if I buy it, it will be a physical release. And I guess, you joke, you're like, oh yeah, Austin Matthews is on the cover, you'll definitely buy it. My wife, Sarah, is completely on your side with that one. She was like, oh yeah, you're getting it.
She's a smart lady.
Yeah. I just wish they would, the cover art, it seems like that's the final cover art, but I really wish it wasn't. It just looks like Reddit fan art or one of those photorealistic tattoos. They're just, the face and the teeth just kind of don't look quite right.
It doesn't matter. Yeah. You'll still buy it. You're still going to buy it.
Yeah. And by that time, we will have crowned an NHL champion, which, with the way things are going, the final looks like it could potentially be Stampede and the Swarm.
Yeah. Crazy, eh?
Yeah, I would like to see the Swarm back in the finals. It's a promising team. The fact that you've got a female head coach sort of spearheading it all with Michelle Cox, I think that's pretty awesome. And, Andy Hay sort of, I guess going into his twilight years, it'd be great for him to win another championship. He
is a great New Zealander.
I love that's all you have to add on that. But we should get into our interview actually with Kahu Joyce, who, used to play with the Botany Swarm. And I know there's a lot of people out there that sort of miss seeing him play. He's quite a young, exciting player. Still got a few more years in him, but he does reffing as well, which is pretty interesting, which we talk about that. So, that's it for Joe and I this week, and enjoy our interview with Kahu Joyce.
See ya!
All right, I'm here in Sydney in the Holiday Inn meeting room with none other than Kahu Joyce. Thanks for joining me, buddy.
No worries. How's it going?
Good, man. It's good to finally catch up with you again because obviously you've made the move over to Australia. But let's start off with what everyone probably wants to hear about. You're wearing the scars of it pretty well, but it's actually from something else, which we'll get to. But you're rocking a pretty mean hockey face at the moment. You got stitches, bruises galore. But that recent fight against Alex Gautier, take us through that. What spurred that all on?
Let's be honest, it's hockey. It's going to happen. When you're not the star player of the team, you're always looking to make improvements and do something for the team. So we had a player get a high stick, which sent him off to the hospital. And pretty much I just asked him what the number was and told me the number, and I had a look for him, and somehow it happened. So I know the rumours say that I was the one that shouldn't have been there, and that I was backing off left, right and centre, but let's just put the story straight. I was the guy to ask him, so good on him for taking it. Not so good my end for getting knocked out in one punch, but what can you do? It's just the sport, I guess.
Yeah, and like speaking to someone like myself who's obviously never been in a hockey fight before, what's the recovery like after a bout like that?
So I took a week off the ice just to get the head right again. There wasn't any concussion symptoms, but when you take a hit like that, it's never going to sit too well, I guess. So it was nice to take the week off the rink, and back here in Sydney this week to do it all again.
And because, you said you were standing up for your teammates, so what kind of reaction did the Melbourne Ice boys give you afterwards? Yeah,
the boys loved it, let's be honest. Regardless of the outcome, it was the situation, and we handled it. We handled it good. So.
And of course, the Ice went on to win their game 3-1 against the Adelaide Adrenaline, so I guess you could say you probably had the last laugh there. Yeah.
He was playing a good game the whole match, so it was nice to get him off the ice and seal the deal for the boys.
Now, I see more and more of New Zealand's top players are starting to pop up in the AIHL over here. In that game alone, you were up against Benjamin Gauthier with the Adrenaline. Plus, you got yourself and Jeremy Chai with the Ice. So when the game is over and you're winding down, do you like to find time to sort of catch up with the old Kiwi mates?
Yeah, for sure. So we played Jake Ratcliffe last night, and you always find a time, maybe in the warm-ups or just before the game, to say, hey, how are you? But that's pretty much it until the end of the game. So after the game, you shake hands, catch up real quick, and see you next time, It's really good. I never really saw too many Kiwis over here in the AI, but it's good to see there's so many more guys coming over.
Yeah, what do you think is starting to attract more and more of sort of New Zealand's top players to come over here?
Honestly, I think I don't really have a stamp on that. Like, the league is, it just seemed more controlled. It's not like the ice hockey is any better. Like, just back home, people are playing just as hard. The imports are just as good. But just over here, there's more games. And just, I don't know, more opportunities over here. It's good to get on the ice here and have a crack at it and see where you really sit in the equation. So.
And of course, now you're sort of in your second year over here. What's the one team you really look forward to playing against the most in the Aussie League?
Nowadays, it's the Mustangs. I played with the Mustangs last year and have moved over to the ice, so it's always a good feeling playing against the old teammates and normally or trying to get a win off it.
Of course, the Melbourne Mustangs also boast, basically, I think they've got about 4 Kiwis. You've got Jaden Pine-Murphy, Jackson Lane made the move over this year. And of course, you got Bradley Apps as well, and Tristan Darling also came this year as well. So is it kind of is that part of it? That's sort of why you love playing against the Mustangs?
Yeah. So I was the first guy to make the move over, and Bradley Apps, a little insider here, he was actually going to trial for the Melbourne Ice, and told him that was the biggest mistake he was going to make. So he ended up coming over to the Stangs with the boys, and since I've left, so it's nice to see that all the guys are going over there and hanging out with Brad, and just get a good game against them every time. It's good fun.
And as for for yourself personally, what inspired you to make the move from New Zealand to Melbourne?
To be honest with you, it was work. Yeah. Let's be honest, the money here is much better, and the hockey is more, so it was a no-brainer at all.
How have you found, because you obviously mentioned there's not too much difference, but is there any kind of difference at all? Is there kind of a jump in speed or skill level between the two leagues?
No, I wouldn't say the skill level is too much higher. Like, the local Australians and the local Kiwis, we can kind of mix and match up with each other, and if New Zealand gets lucky on a couple of imports, then that brings the league right up each year, I guess. But here, it's there's the structure. It's like they've been imprinted with a better game style or game plan from a young age, so they kind of know a bit more in the sense of IQ. So it's kind of nice to see that and feed off them throughout the year.
So you feel like being over here, that's really helping your game as well?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if it makes any sense to anyone back home, but I feel like the imports just come to play because it's 16 games and then they go home, whereas if you make playoffs here, you could play 30 games if you end up on top. So the imports are really trying to push you up and bring you up with them throughout the whole season, you know. It's nice. It's a good feeling.
And obviously, both the Australian and New Zealand leagues, they kind of have their own special little quirks. I've noticed from going to a couple of games now with the Australian league, you know, you've got the 2 15-minute periods and then the 120, which kind of threw me off at first because I was commentating the game against the Bears and the Thunder a couple of weeks ago, and I remember my co-commentator was like, oh, and there's 12 minutes remaining in the first period. I was like, did we fucking just burn through 8 minutes of hockey? Completely forgot. But like between, you know, from your experience so far, what are some things that you think that the AIHL does better than the NZHL, that the NZHL could learn from?
No, I don't think there's much.
Yeah?
No, so yourself, you're killing it on the social media and back home, so that's pretty much exactly the same as here, if not better. And you're right, the 2 15-minute periods I still am not used to, so just like, yeah, you get 2 or 3 shifts out of the way and that's the first period done. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But, you know, it's just the game here and then you got to adjust to it and hope to get a W out of 2 15-minute periods and a 20.
I guess it kind of feels a bit like inline hockey. It's all over before you know it. But what about on the other side of things? Is there anything you think that the NZHL does that perhaps the Australian League could learn from?
No, I think personally I reckon the leagues are very similar in skill level and how the league is run. Personally, in my opinion, I reckon that in the near future we should be looking at a merger and get both countries involved. Well, because we're in Melbourne and when we have to fly to Perth, it's a 4-hour flight, you know, so it's a shorter flight to go back home to New Zealand and play around there, which I kind of get bugged about each time. But it would be pretty tough for the Perth team to travel, say, 7 hours to New Zealand to do that. So hopefully in the near future something along the lines happen, but for now we'll just keep picking off the Aussies one by one.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned that, a merger, you probably got a few listeners a bit excited about that because we field questions like that on our Facebook from time to time. And I'm just like, you know, in an ideal world, something like that would be amazing. You know, if you look at, say, you know, the Australian NBL, like the basketball league there, obviously you've got the New Zealand Breakers. I don't know if they ever sort of imagined the New Zealand league merging in, and because, I mean, I think at the skill level is a little bit different, but say here with the Australian league and the New Zealand ice hockey leagues, it would be awesome. I mean, Perth would only have, well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty rough for Perth, but I was going to bring that up actually because geographically speaking, Australia is obviously a much larger country than New Zealand, and like most of the AIHL teams are kind of clustered relatively close together. But what are those trips to Perth like? To, you know, when you go over to play the Thunder, there must be some serious travel days.
Yeah. So a lot of the boys quite like that trip, but again, personally, it kind of gets under my skin because I could be spending that time going home, seeing family, seeing friends, and the flight would be a shorter amount of time. But we're all just going away trying to stack W's up. So at the end of the day, yeah, you just do what you got to do.
And I actually mentioned Jeremy Chai earlier. So when you came into the Melbourne Ice, coming over from the Mustangs, how important was it for you to see a familiar face there?
Yeah, it was really nice. It was good to see a few of the boys. I'd been playing lower leagues in Australia just for more ice time, just to have fun, have a hit around. And I've played with most of these guys outside of top level hockey already. So it was nice to see Chai's face there. It was nice to see a few of the other guys too.
So you sort of like, because I noticed on your Instagram story, obviously you had Jeremy sort of creeping behind you there, so you got a good little bond going on there with him.
Oh yeah, it's fresh, but we'll keep it going.
And then obviously, the Australian captain Liam Webster is also on your team with the Ice there. What's that like going from playing against him when you play for the Ice Blacks in the Trans-Tasman series versus now then being teammates?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of guys on this team in the same caliber. We've got people like Tommy Powell, Matt Armstrong, Jason Backlig, and when they play against us when we're playing for the Stangs, it's always a battle trying to shut those guys down, and obviously they're local players, so when you know that the local players can still put in work just as much as the imports, it makes the combination a lot harder to fix and sort out. So it's awesome to have him on the team. It's upsetting that he's injured at the moment and can't be here with us. But yeah, like you said, it's real nice to have him on the team, putting points up from the blue line pretty much every single game he plays. It's unreal. All you can do is learn off it.
Yeah. And then I guess, do you kind of, because now that you've obviously spent a bit of time over here, can you then go to like say the Ice Blacks camp and you've kind of got a bit of intel on these guys?
Yeah. So when we went back for the Trans-Tasman tournament in Queenstown last year, it was pretty much exactly that. Just telling all the boys kind of who to watch out for and what this guy will do here and there. And yeah, it was nice to have a little edge on the team before we went into the game.
Speaking of that, like last year's series, it had such an amazing atmosphere, especially Game 2. I was there shooting the games, and you guys put up a few goals to have a comfortable lead. And I remember turning to Kate Harrison, Connor's sister, and we both just like looked at each other like, what the hell is going on here? And like, I'd never seen anything like that. Like, New Zealand were just putting on such a strong, dominant performance, and the Australians just didn't seem to have an answer for it. So like, what was the mood like, in the locker room as that game went on for you guys?
Let's be honest, we absolutely loved it. It was really nice to take Australia under the belt for a series. But again, I'm living in Australia, so I've got to be nice to them at the same time. Yeah. They didn't bring over their full squad. They had a few excuses here and there, but I'll give them that this time. But the next series, we won't hold back, just as last year.
How do you rate the Ice Blacks' chances of a repeat performance this year?
Oh, I'd say pretty highly likely. Yeah. Well, we'll give them a good crack. I do know that they sit up a division on us in the IHF standings, but when it comes down to games like that, you're not looking at standings. You just play full of heart, full of guts, and again, do what you got to do.
Now, quite recently, the NZIHF has sort of been advertising a bunch of head coaching roles for all the national teams. Who's someone that you would like to see putting their hand up for that Ice Blacks gig?
Oh, it's a tough one. I don't want to say it out loud. He's probably thinking he's still got a couple years in him, but I'd say Andy Hay, my fellow teammate down at the Botany Swarm. Yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge on him. He's captain of the Ice Blacks for years. He's a great guy to have on the bench when you do go away. And if he was in the coaching role, I wouldn't see a problem there at all.
He would make a good coach. I've noticed he's getting really stuck in and really involved with I guess all the behind the scenes things with botany. So it would be great to see as well. But I guess obviously, what if Anatoly comes back? You'd be just as happy with that.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's got a lot of knowledge on him too, playing in Russia, growing up, and bringing that side of things to the team. It's always nice having that experience.
And obviously next year the Ice Blacks, heading to Iceland for the World Champs. We know that the cost of travelling and participating in those training camps and tournaments, they can be quite a prohibiting factor for some of the few players attending. If you got the call up and ignoring all of that, would you go?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It's I've taken a year away. The boys just went and done a tour, but it'd be nice to get back in the rotation there. Main reason for taking a season away was that the pre-season of the AIHL actually falls into that training camp, and when you're moving around teams and when you're trying to get a solid spot in there, it's kind of a risk leaving the team to go and play with your country. But yeah, I'm feeling pretty good here with the ice this year, so I'm sure I'll be back on board as soon as possible.
Nice. I did want to bring up an interesting stat I found out this morning going through the IHL rankings. He currently ranked 10th equal with Brian Fumes on penalty minutes with 41. The reason why I bring that up is that not only do you play, but you also don the stripes as a referee. So since you kind of got both sides there, so what's with all the penalty minutes there, bud?
It's just in my nature. I've been in the box since a kid, and it's never really left me. And I thought it would be good to chuck on the stripes so that I can just start handing them out and start feeling a little bit better about myself, instead of being on the receiving end. You know what I mean? But it's really nice putting the stripes on. Since coming to Australia and learning those little extra IQ things from all the local boys and imports and whatnot, you're always going to learn more being in the stripes, because you've got to control the game yourself, learn up on the rules. And when it comes to a game and playing yourself, you kind of push the edges, as I'd say it. You kind of take it right to the limit, and you kind of know what you can and can't get away with here and there, and where and when you can use something when really you shouldn't be. But I mean, I guess they just see me as the Kiwi boy in stripes and still want to put me in the bin.
So from your experience there as an official so far, like you sort of mentioned, sort of breaking things down there, do you sort of take that experience and sort of help your fellow teammates sort of figure out why you got called for certain things?
Yeah. I will explain it to them. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I say. The ref has made a decision already, and he could have seen something completely different. But yeah, there has been a few instances where the boys have come up and asked, and same with the coaches, just asking for a second opinion. It's always nice to have that extra knowledge on the bench.
And what's the process like for, say, someone else out there, who might be interested in, picking up the whistle? Is there like a bunch of courses and stuff you have to pass before you don those stripes?
No, it's actually super simple. And if anyone out there actually wants to get any better at hockey and you're looking at taking a few extra steps, I would definitely consider putting on the stripes. Personally, I'm doing 20 to 40 games a week, so it's an extra 20 to 40 hours skating on the ice. And if you've got problems with your skating, that's your instant fix-up. And yeah, you just learn the rules immensely. The biggest bonus on top of that is you actually get paid. So you're no longer paying for public sessions and going for a skate. You're actually getting paid to do it. And at the end of the day, people are always going to support you doing what you're doing. It's not an easy job getting abuse from all the boys out there. So, you always have that support. And if you're looking at improving your game at all, then I would highly recommend it.
Do you sort of feel like you want to back off on the kind of, I guess the abuse of the officials because you experienced it on the other side?
No way. No way. I'd say I'd give it to them more now, because knowing where and when penalties should be called, and if I see it not being called, then I'm normally the first person to be screaming.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is that like the officiating side of things? Is that a career path you'd consider, further down the track when, you sort of decide to, stop playing competitive hockey?
Yes. Yeah. It would be a pretty cool thing to do. And yeah, I would be looking into that. At this stage, I still reckon I got a couple years in me, and
I mean, yeah, you're only like 25, dude.
Yeah. But the issue there is that you have to have your double IHF card before you're 35, or you can never get it. So you have to make some decisions in your 30s, really, if you want to take that path or not. So we'll keep it in mind, that's for sure.
Well, there you go. I just learned something there. But being, in Australia for a couple of years now, is there any like really comforts of home that you really miss?
Yeah, there's a lot. I'll start with pineapple lumps. Then I'll move on to the pies, and then close behind is the fish and chips.
Oh, dude. I feel you on the fish and chips thing, because like in Sydney, there's no just, go down to the local and get a $5 feed. It's all pub style, like $15, Like, I was like, that's bullshit. Is there anywhere I can get a cheap feed here?
No, man, it's somehow a gourmet meal here, and the fish tastes nowhere near the same as back home. So I'm definitely not paying $20 for a meal of fish and chips. When back home you're going to be eating way better for $3.
Yeah.
Man, it's a big one. It's a big one for sure.
I think some places in Australia, I think Coles supermarkets have a New Zealand section where you can get some things, but the last, my wife and I, Sarah, we were in New Zealand recently and we came back with a stack of onion soup mix so we can make the old classic Kiwi onion dip.
Yeah, dog. That's sick. I've just seen a few posts from friends and family back home about, I think it's Cadbury. They bought out some perky nana lumps. So I've just had a whole batch of those sent out, and we'll give them a try. I'm sure they'll be great.
Yeah, you can never take the Kiwi out of the man, even if you're in Australia. There's just some things, man. But, last year with the Ice Hockey Classic Tour in New Zealand, you actually had, a reporter from your local iwi following you around trying to tell your story. So, where does your whole, your background, where does your family come from?
So my dad's from up north in Kahu, right up in Whangarei. And my mum's actually originated from Stewart Island, so it was nice for them to meet in the middle down in Christchurch where me and my sister were born. But yeah, I don't remember the question at all.
I was just because you had that reporter sort of following you around, you're talking about your local iwi, and because obviously there's not that many Māori hockey players out there, so pretty cool story there.
Yeah. So I think that's what they're kind of trying to cover is New Zealand Māoris and sport in general, and how they're doing. The main story that he was following was actually a Kiwi playing ice hockey in Australia, and how he kind of fits into the equation. It's real nice to have the iwi kind of have a support route for the Māoris out there. Because they're popping up everywhere in the world, really. We've got rugby players playing everywhere, France, Yeah. And it's nice to finally get some coverage on the ice hockey side of things, because Southern Hemisphere doesn't really know about it, that's for sure.
Yeah. Speaking of that, because obviously I feel like a lot more Kiwi kids and sort of Māori and Pacific Islander kids, and especially they could I think if they gave hockey a shot, picked it up over rugby or basketball or something, they'd be hooked. So, what attracted you to the sport in the first place?
I guess it's New Zealand is a huge rugby country, and throughout high school and wherever you kind of went and telling people that you played ice hockey, they would always give you a bit of stick for it, saying, "Oh, come and play some rugby. It's much harder. It's much tougher, and you couldn't tackle me and whatnot." But like you said, I think they would have some real good fun trying to play some contact ice hockey, and I'd definitely give it a go, putting them in their place.
I'd love that. As you've been developing into the player that you are today, who are some prominent athletes that sort of inspired you from a young age?
That's a tough one. I'd have to say my dad would be one. He wasn't exactly an athlete, but he would always be there at every single game, every single practice, yelling at you from the side, and, give it some more, come on. Most of the time he'd be getting kicked out of most of our events for being too much. Good man. But besides that, I just the burn and the fire for the sport was kind of what pushed me along. Never really had too many role models. Never really looked up to too many people. Just thought, if you want to get this done, you got to put in the work, and that's kind of something that my dad bred into me. Was kind of nice.
That's awesome, man. Just lastly, your old Botany Swarm team, they're looking pretty good this year.
Yeah.
I think they've got a real shot at making the Burgle Cup finals for the first time since 2011. But being in Australia, do you get to keep up with the games? Do you get to watch them? And do you think the Swarm have what it takes to go the distance this year?
Yeah, I've actually been watching the boys a lot this year, and it's been real nice to watch the boys come out on top with a few wins, especially last night when they played the Red Devils and come on top 7-2. So to start getting some real goals and some real points, it's awesome. It's awesome to watch.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for the time, Kahu, and I guess all the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming down.
Puck Yeah! It's New Zealand's home for hockey. Subscribe on iTunes, SoundCloud, or with your favourite podcast app for the latest episodes. Follow the team on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at PuckYeahNZ. And for your fix of hockey news, go to puckyeah.nz.